You are part of history. Seriously, I need you to look to someone next to you and let them know that you are part of history. This is a historic moment, okay? Not only is this the first time that we have met in a long time in person, but we've also received record high registrations. We have 4 high schools. I mean, where does that happen, right? 4 high schools and that are going to be in another building. We have students and alumni. We have thought leaders and influencers, not just here locally throughout the state, but again throughout the nation. And again, you all are really in for a treat. Okay, so before we introduce our keynote speaker for the morning, we will have greetings from a number of our wonderful leadership, sponsors, and partners. It's going to go in this order, okay? So Dr. Jenkins will be followed by Dr. Pamela Wilkes, who is our provost, Dr. Sadie Gregory, the Dean of College of Business, Dr. Ronald Williams, the Associate Professor in Management and Director of the Center for Strategic Entrepreneurship, Senator Antonio Hayes. We'll have Ms. Tommy Hears from the Annie Casey Foundation, Mr. Austin Merritt, the VP of Community Development at PNC, and then followed by the keynote of Comptroller Brooke Learman. Thank you so much for coming. So could you please join me in bringing up the leader of Eagle Nation, Dr. Jenkins.
I'm gonna move our podium over here a little bit. I'm gonna slide us. No, I'm good. I'm one of those working presidents.
I know.
There we go. And for our guests who may need the podium rearranged a little differently, we're gonna put the mic over here. All right. So that way your document sits flat. And we're gonna go here. All right. That's how we do things at Coppin. We want to make our guests feel comfortable. So good morning.
Good morning.
How's everybody doing?
Great.
Well, it is wonderful to have you here. It's wonderful to be here. And when I was coming in, it's great to see so many folks who are participating in today's event. This is going to be a wonderful day. We got off to a great start. This is just an example of the type of product that Coppin State produces. Young people and leaders and thought leaders that we know can sit at the table and compete with anybody from anywhere, regardless of the institution or where they are from in this country or around the globe. And so let's give our mistress of ceremony a round of applause. I know you said it, but for those who don't know, I'm Anthony Jenkins, and I have the distinct honor and the privilege of serving as the 8th president of Coppin State University. In 123 years, we've only had 8 incredible presidents at this institution. I said 8, I'm gonna count myself in that too. Okay? All right. But we have a rich, storied history at this institution. We have been punching above our weight. We have been transforming lives. We have been nurturing potential for 123 years. And I am extremely proud of the work that we have done and the position that I'm in to build off the great work of previous presidents and administrations that have come before me, and to partner collectively today with faculty and staff who are committed in a way that is so profound to our students, to our community, and to the surrounding community. Today, I would like to thank, before we get started, because you heard the long list of speakers who will come up and engage you throughout today, but let me have Dr. Ron Williams stand. I want to thank him. As noted earlier, Dr. Williams is a faculty member here at the university, as well as the founding director for the Center for Strategic Entrepreneurship and Innovation here at the university, which is housed in the College of Business. And for those, depending on how you came to campus, in a couple of months, we'll be back for a ribbon cutting on our new College of Business, which I'm told is a beautiful facility that will house our Center for Strategic Entrepreneurship, makerspace, conference rooms, lecture facilities, you name it, is in that building. But that is what we are doing at Coppin. We are transforming this university from every perspective. And Dr. Williams and our faculty, our staff, and our administration and our leadership are helping to do that. I also want to acknowledge all of our alumni, our students, our faculty and staff who are here, so thank you for being here as well. And for Comptroller Learman, thank you. We look forward to your words of inspiration and all the great things that you will be talking about when you have the podium. You know, this event is in its fourth year, the fourth year of bringing together some of the best minds in our city, across our state, and beyond, to talk about economic inclusion and upward mobility and how we strengthen the very foundation of Baltimore City and the great state of Maryland. You know, many people have said, and I've said it myself, that if Maryland truly is going to reach its fullest potential, it has to have a strong Baltimore City. Baltimore City is inextricably linked with Coppin State University. As the hometown institution, so goes Coppin, so goes Baltimore. So goes Baltimore, so goes Coppin. That is why opportunities like this is so important. And last year, out of the legislative session, there was a piece of legislation that was developed that created the West North Avenue Development Authority. And I want to acknowledge two individuals who are here who were instrumental in making that piece of legislation happen. Senator Antonio Hayes, please stand up, Senator. And Delegate Ampry, is he with us? All right. But those two individuals, those two leaders, played an incredible role in having vision and helping to put forth the West North Avenue Development Authority that will revitalize, re-energize, and transform West North Avenue. And the senator and the delegate were so gracious to make sure that Coppin State University was rolled into that piece of legislation and to become the first HBCU in the nation to lead the revitalization of a major city. And so I want to thank him for the opportunity and the confidence in Coppin. I think the legislation named me as chair. Some other folks must have said no, so he was down to the bottom of the barrel. But we are going to do great work, Senator, and this feeds into that. If the West North Avenue Development Authority is going to achieve the goals and the aspirations that we have for it, economic development is the cornerstone, the core of that effort. So today is not just about coming together and talking about great ideas. It's also about action, because it is time for action in Baltimore. It is time for us to see meaningful change on the decisions and the actions that are being put in place. Before I take my seat, I do want to acknowledge just a couple of more points here. You know, when I arrived at Coppin in 2020 in the midst of the global pandemic, it was a very challenging time for the university and for our city, our state, and the world, quite frankly. I could not have been more prouder of how Coppin adapted and how we wrapped our arms around our students. And when we talk about economic upward mobility, when we talk about economic impact, we were strategic in making sure that our students who were financially devastated by the pandemic had the resources that they needed to finish their journey or to start their journey. Because it does little good for anyone, for a person to enter an institution like Coppin and not get out the other side. So when you talk about the economic impact, when you talk about upward mobility, education is a critical component to that. And we must never lose sight, whether formal education or informal education. It is important to the overall development and growth of the individuals that we touch. And so when you talk about Coppin, I always like to talk about how diverse we are, how we are an institution that is growing and collecting talent from all over the world. We have students who join us at this institution from 35 different states, including the District of Columbia and 30 international countries. So when we talk about economic impact, the philosophies that we developed here, the students that we help shape and mold, they take that philosophy, they take that knowledge back to the corners of where they originate from. And there you will find a piece of Eagle Nation through a thought, through a conversation, or through the lens of education, regardless of how it is situated. We are proud of Coppin State and the impact that we continue to have. Today is just another opportunity for us to come together, show the city, the state, and the region that what we are doing as an anchor institution has a rippling effect that we have yet to fully comprehend. So today, I hope that you have a wonderful discussion. I know that this event will stimulate conversations and ideas that will help us elevate not only West Baltimore, but Baltimore and Maryland as a whole. And I am glad that we're doing it right here on the beautiful campus of Coppin State University. So with that, I want to thank you, I want to welcome you, and I want to, again, make sure that you understand the significance of your being here is not just to have a conversation and keep that talent and energy here, but let's go out, let's mobilize, let's embark on something great for Baltimore City and for the state of Maryland. Thank you all very much. I'm sorry, I didn't even introduce you. So I forgot you were coming up after me. So let me do this right. Dr. Pamela Wilkes is the provost and vice president for academic affairs here at Coppin State University. She joined us in fall of 2022. She has a rich, diverse history in higher education. She has seen it from multiple perspectives. And I am honored that she is a part of my team and have joined the team to deposit her expertise and her energy in helping us continue to lift Coppin State University. So with that, please help me welcome to the podium Dr. Pamela Wilkes.
Serve as Provost and Vice President for Academic Affairs at the great Coppin State University. And I bring you greetings on this morning as we welcome you to this great annual event. Entrepreneurship is an important cornerstone of the student experience here at Coppin State University. It is not only the place where students can learn about how to engage in the business enterprise, but through theory and applied experiential learning practice, and also in ways that our students can understand how to facilitate their own personal and professional growth through marketing and greater self-efficacy. It is therefore with intentionality that the College of Business, as well as the Center for Strategic Entrepreneurship, work together to ensure that all students, regardless of their major, have the opportunity to learn more about how to engage themselves in addition to others through the entrepreneurial spirit. I'm going to echo the sentiments of our president, and I'm going to especially thank Dr. Ron Williams, Director of the Center for Strategic Entrepreneurship, for directing and implementing such a great and exemplary event. And I'd also like to thank Dr. Sadie Gregory, Dean of the College of Business, for her support, as well as those faculty and all the team members within the College of Business, as well as at the institution, who work collaboratively and collectively together to ensure that the Center for Strategic Entrepreneurship, as well as the College of Business, are a mainstay and a linchpin in the organizational and educational opportunities provided for our students here. So thank you both, as well as that team. Entrepreneurship. It is our desire that through this particular conference, that you not only ideate and innovate and implement the concepts found within that entrepreneurial spirit, but that this conference will shape and allow you to share an opportunity to network with others and to explore this experience, to work and engage and empower others to understand their role and their responsibility to the economic empowerment, not just in West Baltimore, and not just in the greater metropolitan area of Baltimore City, but also the state of Maryland and globally. That when you leave here today, that you leave with a greater responsibility and understanding of the action you must undertake, and how the role of strategic entrepreneurship is a cornerstone in that process. Again, we welcome you and we thank you for attending today's festivities. I hope that not only that you have a wonderful day, but that you find this experience to be all that you hope for and more. Again, thank you so much for your encouragement, for your participation, and your engagement. Let's do some great work, not just for the city of Baltimore and not just for the students of Coppin, but for the greater community here in the state of Maryland and beyond. Thank you. And I'm going to do the same thing our president did. At this time, we'd like to welcome the great Dean, Dr. Sadie Gregory of our College of Business. Dr. Gregory.
I'm Sadie Gregory. I'm the Dean of the College of Business. I welcome you to the Economic Inclusion Conference at Coppin. I'm delighted to be a part of this program, and I know that the President mentioned a few minutes ago about the new building. I'm just going to piggyback on that for a moment, because you know that as an educational entity, our primary focus is on teaching and learning. But we've taken teaching and learning to another level. Of course, in that new building, we have state-of-the-art space for classrooms, laboratories, but one part that I'd like to share with you, and that is on the ground level of that building, we have 3 pillars. We'll have the Center for Strategic Entrepreneurship, and Dr. Williams will talk more about that. We'll have a section called Partners in Education, where we are working with K through 12 and our community college partners. And the 3rd pillar deals with a wealth center, a community wealth center. So we're looking at teaching and learning not only taking place in the traditional classroom, but teaching and learning for us is extended to help support the mission of our university. That is, of course, teaching and learning while serving the community. Our students, our faculty, our staff who will be in that building would also be in the community. We also plan to bring the community into that building, to build these kind of partnerships to enrich our college, to support our students' learning, and to also serve the community in which we reside. So thank you for being here. Please take advantage of the sessions, and let's enjoy this conference. Thank you. And at this time, I would like to introduce a faculty member in the College of Business, a management faculty member, but also the executive director for the Center for Strategic Entrepreneurship, Dr. Ronald Williams.
Good morning. Yes, my name is Ron Williams, and I'm the founding director of the Center for Strategic Entrepreneurship. Just to put it in context, this is really the culmination of work that has been going on for a decade. President Jenkins, I want to thank him for his support and what he's done over these past few years, but he's the one that formalized the launch of the center. And what you will see today is the culmination of 2 years of work, and 3 years actually, of work and forming relationships and putting together programs, and it has all come together very well. I want to thank, first of all of our staff, our volunteers, those who have worked to put this together. I won't start to call names because I'm sure I would leave somebody out. But they have put all of this together. It's a very lean team, but they work very hard. So let's give them a big round of applause. I have been in higher ed for 37 years. The first 10 were spent at Johns Hopkins University, which is my alma mater, and I also taught there for several years. 27 years ago, I came to Coppin State University, and I have been here ever since. And I'm so proud and excited to be here at this time because something is different. Something is changing. There's an energy here that I have not witnessed in my 27 years. And I am grateful and thankful to be here at this time. So much is coming together in West Baltimore, on the West Baltimore corridor, and we really have an opportunity to actualize and to become that engine of economic development and innovation in West Baltimore. There's something about this academic community and everything that we have structured around a concept known as a quadruple helix model of innovation. That's bringing public, private, academic, and community together for a transformative change. The next few years, you're going to see a lot happening. The provost and the president and Dr. Jenkins mentioned the opening of the new building. On the first floor of that new building, on the corner of Warwick and North, the center has a significant footprint. That's going to be the meeting place. That's where the community and the academic community and the public and private sector will come together and have conversation about how we can transform and provide opportunity in West Baltimore. We operate under 3 pillars in the center. One is economic development. We have programs, innovative programs like the real estate acquisition program for students, where one of our alums helps to mentor and helps to our students acquire their real estate licenses and then mentors them in that sector so that they can earn while they learn. Education, we go all the way down to kindergarten because we bring entrepreneurs in to read to them during their read aloud time and infuse entrepreneurial thinking into the stories. We have connection with the 4 high schools. I want you to understand, in another building, there are 4 high schools. There are college students. There are alums in the TAW Center that are meeting right now simultaneously. So we are really putting together the model. The third pillar is community and social innovation. We are the first HBCU in the nation, public HBCU, to have a formal relationship with a community-embedded makerspace. We did the research that showed that OpenWorks put over $8 million on the bottom line of the city every year and over $9 million on the bottom line of the state. We're excited about the Makerspace pilot initiative that is going to place makerspaces throughout the state as economic drivers. We were right in the middle of that. The case study of their production of PPE during the pandemic, 28,000 units in 56 days from a dead stop. We're getting ready to write the case, and the next study for the rollout of the makerspaces. So we are about advancing the economic agenda. We have a very aggressive agenda. We have great sessions for you today. Just to mention a few of them, we do have a session about the rollout of those 5 makerspaces across the state. Make sure you go hear the director, Will Holman. We have Vashti Pyatt from the Small Business Development, Small Business Administration. We also have, I want to thank our sponsor, in particular also the Annie Casey Foundation, because they have sponsored the research of youth entrepreneurship in the city of Baltimore so that we can begin to get a handle on outcomes outcomes. We invest a lot, but we need to get a handle on outcomes. We want to thank them for being here. TEDCO is here. Also, the Christy Turner, who is one of our alums who did a great work, her listening session around Baltimore, West Baltimore. She has a session. Make sure you go hear as many as you possibly can. Also, we have lunch. We have a sponsored lunch, but we also have lunch downstairs. Make sure that you come back because we have an all-star panel. We have Bernadine Hawes, who's very influential in the manufacturing space. We have Frank Robinson, who eConsult Solutions, his organization, they do a lot of the economic impact studies around the city, in particular in academia. And Aaron Horn, who is the National Executive Director of the Howard PNC National Entrepreneurship Centers. For the first time in history, the 4 HBCUs in Maryland all have entrepreneurship centers. Let's give that a big hand. So we have leaders from all of those entrepreneurship centers who have a session today. Make sure you soak up as much as you possibly can. At 3 o'clock, we're going to have a kickoff session for the Excel project. That's the research project. Excel stands for Excellence in Entrepreneurial Learning. So if you want to stick around for the 3 o'clock, we'll be glad to have you. But enjoy the day. I want to meet everybody here and connect with you, so make sure that I at least get to shake your hand and know who you are. Thank you very much.
Good morning. Senator Antonio Hayes, I represent the 40th Legislative District in Baltimore City. I think my task this morning is also to acknowledge my colleagues in elected office. I saw joining me this morning City Councilman James Torrance. James, please stand so everyone can see you. Also joining us here are two former colleagues who have been extraordinary in contributing to Baltimore City. I think I saw Councilman Leon Pinkett back there, and also Councilwoman Helen Holton. Wave your hands, and Councilwoman. And then I don't know where Jerome went, but Jerome Stevens, representing U.S. Senator Ben Carton's office, was here. I just want to thank Dr. Jenkins, Provost Wilkes, Dean Gregory, and Ron Williams for an extraordinary opportunity right here at Coppin State University. After hearing Dr. Williams expand upon all of the things that's going to happen today, I felt a little robbed that I won't be able to stay all day, but hopefully we could tape some of the sessions and I could watch them later on. But this is an awesome, awesome opportunity. For Coppin. I am very happy that we're able to have our comptroller, Brooke Learman, here as well. Brooke and I came into the legislature together back in 2014. It was, when we came in, prior to us coming in, like you had the median age for being an elected official in the legislature was about 65, right? And so we had these young Turks. Antonio, Brooke, and Corey came in the House of Delegates, and Corey and I left Brooke behind in the Senate, and then 4 years later, she did one better and ran for statewide office. But you guys have a lot to look forward to in Brooke Learman, who's a fighter and champion here in Baltimore. But really, really quick, I won't be with you long, but in the city of Baltimore, entrepreneurship is a powerful tool to address some of the most impactful challenges our communities face today. I'm so excited about the Center for Strategic Entrepreneurship as it builds on Coppin's legacy of entrepreneurship and leads us to think creatively about addressing the challenges in the communities around us. Dr. Jenkins earlier talked about the West North Avenue Development Authority. There are some exciting things happening here on North Avenue and in the Coppin community. 2 years ago, we created the West North Avenue Development Authority with an intentionality to revitalize West North Avenue from 83 to Hilton. We worked off of a $500,000 budget, a $250,000 investment from the city, $250,000 from the state. Last year, we had $1.5 million. This year, thanks to the support of Governor Wes Moore, we're going to invest $11.2 million on West North Avenue. And so that's the type of commitment that we as city, state, and federal partners are making along this corridor. And there's plenty of room for entrepreneurships to thrive along this corridor, and we hope to be partners. I think Dr. Williams mentioned Christie will be on have a session later representing the West North Avenue Development Authority. I would encourage you guys to get to know Christie and the other members of the West North Avenue Development Authority. As a startup, we're in a good spot. We're in a position where we're going to be hiring over the next couple of weeks 10 positions, averaging from $52,000 a year in salary to $145,000 a year. And so definitely, if you want to be a part of the renaissance that's happening here at Coppin and in the surrounding community, please reach out to the West North Avenue Development Authority. But more than anything, I just want to thank you all for finding it not robbery to be here today. As I look out into the audience, I see a lot of familiar faces, old high school colleagues and others. But I'm excited about what's happening here, not just at Coppin, but in West Baltimore. And so look forward to the rest of the day. Without further ado, following me is also a friend that I've known for quite a long time who's contributed so much, not just to Baltimore, but our state and throughout our nation, in serving in leadership capacities at various levels, representing one of the hosts, I believe, of this of today, the Annie Casey Foundation, is Ms. Tommy Hires. Come on up, Tommy.
Thank you, Senator, and good morning, everybody. Again, my name's Tommy Hires, and on behalf of the Annie E. Casey Foundation, I'm really grateful for the opportunity to spend a little bit of time here with you this morning. So as a national philanthropy that's based here in Baltimore, the foundation is focused on helping to create and promote economic opportunities for families so that they can actually thrive. But we primarily did that through workforce development, helping people get connected to training, to jobs where they can take care of themselves and their families. But as we thought about what it really takes for people to thrive, we realized that we needed to focus on wealth, how to help build wealth. While income is necessary to help to cover day-to-day expenses, wealth helps to keep families together through lean times. Wealth is money in the bank. It is an opportunity to retire. It's the capital to start a business. It's the countless opportunities that are afforded to individuals by having savings and by having investments. So a couple years ago, Prosperity Now released a report that showed that if the average black family's wealth continued to grow at the pace that it's grown over the past 30 years, that it would take black families 228 years and Latino families 84 years to amass the amount of wealth that white families have today. And so we know that entrepreneurship can provide pathways to wealth building through business ownership. Creating and owning a business has long been viewed as a path to economic opportunity, and in fact, business equity is second behind home equity as a source for household wealth. So as we at the foundation begin thinking about ways to support entrepreneurs of color here in Baltimore, we started to do a little bit of research, and what we found was that there are, as you can imagine, lots of gaps. So black-owned businesses with employees, they generate disproportionately lower annual revenues than their white counterparts. Entrepreneurs, especially entrepreneurs of color, they often lack the capital that's necessary to either launch their businesses or to expand the businesses that they've already created. They often need advice and networks to help them to figure out what to do. And they often don't have access to that type of technical assistance. And for those who are lucky enough to overcome the gaps that they face with access to capital and technical assistance, they still don't have the networks that are necessary to sell the goods and services that they are qualified to produce and provide. So in essence, they're shut out of opportunities. They don't have the opportunities to even be considered. And so those factors contribute to a lack of trust and a lack of cohesiveness in the ecosystem of programs, of policies and partners and systems that are charged with supporting entrepreneurs. So in its role as an anchor institution, Coppin is able to help connect the dots, between all of the actors in the ecosystem. And I believe that it's important for all of the actors, whether it's the private sector, the philanthropic sector, public, academic, and community, to be in one accord to help create and support meaningful opportunities for entrepreneurship. And having an institution like Coppin step forward and play this role, I think, is extremely exciting. So in a session later today, you'll hear about a partnership between Casey and Coppin. Coppin is helping us to understand opportunities that are available for young entrepreneurship. At the foundation, we're doubling down on young people ages 14 to 24 because we believe that they deserve to have the opportunity to live and to be successful and to thrive. With Coppin's support, we're going to understand what resources exist, what gaps exist, and what we can do to get entrepreneurs, especially young entrepreneurs, connected to the services and supports that they need to realize their dreams. It's going to take a movement to help Baltimore become a place where everybody has an equal chance to succeed economically, and that demands bold leadership, bold investment, and a commitment. And I know that the families and communities that we collectively serve deserve each and every opportunity for them. So thanks to our partnership with Coppin, I'm hoping that we can build those together. So once again, thank you for the opportunity to be here today, and thank you, Coppin, for standing with us as partners. And it's my pleasure to introduce Austin Merritt from PNC Bank.
Again, good morning, everyone. My name is Austin Merritt. I'm the Vice President for Community Development Banking at PNC Bank. And I welcome you all to the Economic Inclusion Conference at Coppin State University. It is an absolute honor to have you all here as we celebrate the power of building innovative networks of collaboration through economic empowerment, education, and upward mobility. This event is an incredible opportunity to recognize local, regional, and national networks in our community who work tirelessly to advance economic and social well-being. It is a true testament to the strength of our shared commitment to promote equity and inclusion in business. Today, we come together to share issues, ideas, and inspire each other, and cultivate a new collaboration that will help us build a more prosperous and inclusive environment and also society. As we gather here today, we recognize the importance of creating innovative networks to empower communities to build strong economies. It's through the collective action and collaboration that we can tackle the challenges, as we all know, we face and create a better future for all. Coppin State University's College of Business has been at the forefront of this effort, working to empower individuals and communities through entrepreneurship, economic education, and opportunity. To take a step back, in 2021, the College of Business was awarded our $300,000 racial equity grant made possible by the PNC Foundation, which continues to provide critical support to Coppin State's efforts to deliver financial education, entrepreneurship training to residents. The grant focuses on education, entrepreneurship, and economic development, and it will help to address the wealth gap not only here in West Baltimore, Baltimore City, not only Maryland, but the country at large. In addition, our mobile branch unit, which has been stationed at the college, gives direct access to PNC bankers who can educate community members and students on financial education, personal finance, careers in banking. The mobile branch unit will also offer financial services, including checking and savings accounts, debit and credit services, lending services, and ATM banking to students, staff, and residents here in Baltimore, or in West Baltimore. This partnership is a shining example of the power of collaboration in driving economic empowerment and innovation. By working together, Coppin State University's College of Business and PNC, we are leveraging our respective strengths to empower individuals and communities, creating new opportunities of economic growth and social well-being. But this is just the beginning. As we gather here today, we must recognize that there is so much more work to be done. We must continue to build innovative networks that can drive economic empowerment, education, and altogether community engagement. We must continue to work together to create new opportunities to grow business. And we must remain committed to advancing access to our most underserved communities. As we celebrate the EICAC today, remember that each of you are drivers. In the advancement of economic empowerment, let us dedicate ourselves to building innovative networks and communities that can be the vessel to real change and create a better future for all. I extend a warm welcome to all guests and look forward to the rich conversations, the fruitful collaborations that will take place here today. Again, thank you to the College of Business staff. Thank you for the attendees. Thank you for just Baltimore at large for us to collaborate and build for the next generation, ourselves and our communities. Thank you very much.
Good morning. How's everybody doing? My name is Gianni Gibson. I'm a student of Coppin State University. Allow me to introduce Brooke Lehrman, the 34th Comptroller of the State of Maryland, the first female Comptroller of the State of Maryland, might I add. Can we talk about girl power? In her career, she has maintained her status as an advocate for the people, as a civil rights and disability rights attorney. She has held a position as a two-term member of the General Assembly and as a state delegate from Baltimore City since 2015. This wife and mother of two is actively and admirably shattering glass ceilings right before our eyes. Please join me in welcoming Brooke Lehrman.
That was wonderful. Thank you so much. Good morning, everybody. Wow, look at that. It's standing room only in the back. That's amazing. What a way to start a Thursday. It is so wonderful to be with you all. I can't tell you how honored I am, how humbling it is to be here as a keynote speaker this morning. This is what they do when you all of a sudden become comptroller. It's exciting. So I'm thrilled to be here, especially with my dear, dear friend, Senator Antonio Hayes. He is one of the most effective leaders in the entire state Senate, getting amazing work done every day. It's been an honor to know him, support him, and to now be a partner with him in a new way. So thank you for all your service, Senator. And he's also a great dad. And it's so good to see Councilman Torrance, Stephanie, thanks so much for reaching out. It was wonderful to see Dr. Jenkins, who's such an incredible leader, to the deans and everybody here. I truly appreciate you. So thank you so much for the introduction. I am Brooke Lehrman. I am a trained civil rights and disability rights lawyer, a mom of two young public school kids in Baltimore City Public Schools. Parents. Public school parents. I am a past member of the House of Delegates, representing the Fightin' 46th District down in South and Southeast Baltimore. And really honored and thrilled to be the 34th Comptroller of the State of Maryland and the first woman to hold that position. So thank you. Yesterday was my 100th day in office, and I am still standing. So I want to talk a little bit, this is such an important conference, and I love the theme of it, this inclusive theme, and talking about networking and meeting other people. And I sort of view my role here today is to talk a little bit about how state government can be a partner and needs to be part of the solution in building a more inclusive economy and tackling the racial wealth gap. And I think that the comptroller, believe it or not, is actually a really key function and can be a key player in that discussion. And so I want to talk a little bit about why I think that and what we are focusing on in the Office of the Comptroller, so that you all, when you're thinking about this work that you're doing today in your conferences, back out in your daily lives, you keep us in mind as a potential partner and as somebody that you can reach out to for resources, for ideas, to share new great reports. Tommy always has amazing reports and data so that we can incorporate that in the work that we're doing. But first and foremost, what on earth is the state comptroller, right? This was the #1 question that I got on the campaign trail over 2 years, and I can predict with some certainty that it will be the #1 question I get for the rest of my career as comptroller. So the Office of the Comptroller is really unique in statewide government, and it has both a very vague and very specific mandate in our state constitution. Our state comptroller, it says, is tasked with the general superintendence of the fiscal affairs of the state, right? So that's very broad in some respects, but also quite narrow, right? It's the fiscal affairs. So I like to think of this in three categories. One, first and foremost, my job as state comptroller is to be the elected CFO of the state of Maryland, right? And so I see every dollar into the state and every dollar out of the state coffers. And so we have a really unique perspective in the comptroller's office that no other agency does because of this role. And we estimate our annual revenues so we can create a state budget. We pay every state employee and we pay every state bill. So when those bills come due at Coppin or some of our other state institutions, right, the check, the name on the check, it's mine, my signature now, paying that bill. It's pretty crazy. Just a quick story, I have now, since tax season ended and refunds are coming in, I have friends sending me pictures almost every day of their tax refund check and my signature on it. And they're like, look, that's you. And I'm like, yeah, that's me. So it's really, looking out for our state's economy, understanding how our economy is working, who it's working for, who it's not working for, really needs to be at the heart of our job in the office of the comptroller. And it's something that I think we are excited to engage in more. That is going to be a priority of my administration. Number two, as comptroller, I'm a member of all of our fiscal boards, including the State Board of Public Works and the State Retirement and Pension Board and the Board of Revenue Estimates. I'm also a member of a board of almost every other combination of letters you can put together. Ms. BIDFA, the MPAC, MALP, like so many boards. It's really fascinating. But the two boards that I want to make sure everybody here understands are the Board of Public Works and the State Retirement and Pension Board. So the Board of Public Works is our highest administrative body in the state of Maryland. It's unique in all of state government throughout the country. No other state has a Board of Public Works. It's 3 equal members, and I'm so honored to serve with our awesome new governor, Wes Moore, and our great treasurer, Derek Davis, and me. We have 3 equal votes on the Board of Public Works. We are responsible for over approving or denying every state contract of over $200,000. Also, every grant that goes to a nonprofit from the state, every wetlands license that's issued, payments in court cases from the state, all of that comes to the Board of Public Works. We meet about every other Wednesday morning at 10 a.m. Our meetings are streamed live, and we approve almost over $500 million in contracts every other week. It's a staggering amount of money, and it's really where you see our tax dollars at work. So it's hugely important in thinking about how our tax dollars are being spent, where they're going, and what they're doing. I also sit on the Maryland State Retirement and Pension Board, where I'm the vice chair. There, I help oversee our $64 billion pension fund for our 415,000 state employees, state retirees, and ensure that our investments are being, that we're fiscally prudent. And that includes ensuring we're keeping a wide variety of risks in mind, including now more than ever, of course, climate risk, but also that we're thinking about things like diversity on boards and the diversity of our investment managers, because we know factually everything points to the fact that our investments will do better if we have more diversity on boards and in our investment teams. So the third role of the state comptroller, that every dollar in that I mentioned I oversee, that is because I am the revenue administrator of the state, which is a nicer way of saying tax collector. And so last year, we collected over 3 million, or filed 3 million tax returns, processed tens of thousands of sales tax payments. We also collect all the taxes for local governments, and then we remit them to the locals. We have 11 field offices around the state of Maryland where we work with individuals, as well as a headquarters in Annapolis, and a huge office here in Baltimore, right now at State Center, but moving downtown later this year. So that money that we bring in is money to fund basically every program that you or I interact with at the state or local government level on a regular basis. These are the building blocks of the Office of the Comptroller. The question then is what you do with those building blocks. This is the role and the job description. but what you do within those will really impact over the next few years how we can make sure that this agency, this office, is working with the team here at Coppin, is working with each of you, is supporting our entrepreneurs in building a more equitable economy in Maryland and throughout the city of Baltimore. So our vision for the agency is to be a partner in building a state that is more equitable, that is more resilient, and that is more prosperous so that every Marylander can reach their full potential. I know it's a small goal. It's a small goal. So the question then is, we have this great vision. How do we achieve that? So our focus, since the naming of our amazingly diverse and brilliant transition team that produced an incredible report, kudos to Stephanie who's read it. She'll tell you it's totally worth reading. You can find it on our website at marylandtaxes.gov or brooklearman.com. We want to live out our values, both the inside of our agency and outside of our agency. So our priorities, the three I want to talk about, are universal, but they're also specific. They align us to do the work that we have to do to make sure that we are meeting this moment in state history, right? We have unique challenges coming out of a pandemic, understanding how our economy is working, but we also have incredible momentum and great opportunity because of a great General Assembly who's totally aligned on these issues, an amazing new governor, a great lieutenant governor, and strong treasurer. We can work together to really overcome so many of the challenges that have built up over the years. So, first and foremost, one of our priorities, those three priorities I want to mention, is to make sure that we have the right team in place to do this, right? I was a student athlete in college, and I understand you can't get to the finish line first if you don't have a great team. And so our number one priority, our first priority, is to really implement those critical agency-wide improvements to help state government work better. At the end of the day, we have to make sure that we are running at peak performance. And that means both the people in the office supporting and investing in our workforce, from increasing the number of positions who can help people, training opportunities better, creating a culture of belonging. I'm so proud that we have created the first ever Office of Equity and Transformation within the Office of the Comptroller and hired our first Chief Equity Officer to make sure that we are working within the agency to build the team and the atmosphere that we need, that all Marylanders can be proud of. It also means we invest in the team and we invest in the tools. That is modernizing our agency. So, a couple stories. Our agency, when I first came in, I was getting a tour, walking around, meeting with people throughout all the buildings, and I kept noticing these screens, like these computer screens that did not look like the computer screen that you or I look at every day. It was green. And I said, finally I was like, so how old is this tax processing system that we are using right now? Well, it is based on a mainframe and uses the programming language COBOL, if any of you know that. So our tax processing system is quite old, and our employees are literally on screens that are green and black. And it is the same, I will tell you, it is the same with the state's accounting system. We have the oldest state accounting system in the nation. And so one of our key focuses, and really a legacy project that I will be working on from the day I started until the day I leave, will be modernizing our IT infrastructure. So thank you. And you don't just modernize for modernization's sake, right? You do it because then you have you can do better and bigger things. So it's easier to access your taxes. It's easier to pay online. Small businesses who are starting can do it themselves. Don't have to hire an accountant and spend that money. Sorry, accountants. If you're for the general accounting system, if you're a contractor with the state or you're a subcontractor, you want to be able to follow where that payment is from the time you get on until the time you get paid. You want to know where the check is. We can't do that right now with our systems, but we have to. That is the kind of service that we should be delivering to the people of Maryland and to our businesses and communities, and that's what we are dedicated to doing. So you build the team, you get the tools so you can execute the plan in the present, first of all. So our second priority is ensuring that the resources and the expertise of the office create opportunity for, and make a positive impact on our families, our communities, and our businesses in Maryland. So I'm going to give you a couple examples of that. One is going to be a tax example. Stay with me. And then we're going to talk about procurement. Two really exciting topics for a morning conference, I know, but ones that are all about money, right? The money in Maryland and where it's going and how we help tackle the racial wealth divide. So first, it's not immediately obvious, but actually tax administration, not just tax policy, which is what the General Assembly does, tax administration can play a hugely significant role in advancing or hindering equity. So, for example, thinking about which residents and businesses are actually utilizing the tax credits that they're eligible for, right? We have important tax credits in the state of Maryland, the most generous state earned income tax credit in the country in Maryland, and the most universal, because if you have an ITIN, not a social security number, you can apply for it. But we know that hundreds of thousands of people don't apply for it and don't get that EITC. So it's not doing as much as it could be. Who are we auditing, right? We have to look at the agency needs to invest more resources for enforcement for our highest net worth individuals and largest corporations with the most complex matters, rather than relying on sort of low income and auditing low income residents simply because it's easier to do that, right? So that's the tax administration. Thanks, yes. These are the tax administration issues that we have to look at. I'm not sure if any of you have read The Whiteness of Wealth by Dorothy Brown. She's a tax lawyer, love it, who wrote this amazing book talking all about this research she's done to demonstrate how the American tax code rewards the preferences and practices of white people while pushing Black Americans further behind. And she urges us to better understand the impact of how the comptroller's office, how any tax agency can impact racial equity. But the problem is we lack data. We don't have data on tax assessments. We don't have data on tax burdens, tax credits, or access to tax services disaggregated by the various different communities. And that makes it more difficult in the state of Maryland to fully quantify the impact of our tax administration system on equity or how to address that problem. So this goes back to both that modernization of our system so that we can use data, but also just collecting and publishing that data as well would be a huge first step in Maryland to really understanding and quantifying how taxes are and tax administration is driving inequality in the state. And so that's something that we are dedicated to working on in partnership with our General Assembly, and as we're looking at how we use and modernize the data collection we have in the office. That's taxes. Now procurement. Number two, so procurement, we have this amazing amount of money running through the state of Maryland that is our money, tax dollars. When we talk about procurement, we're talking about how our money is spent. And state procurement is a key driver of economic activity in Maryland. So we have to be thoughtful about where and with whom the state is spending its money through procurements. So I'm sure many of you are familiar with the fact that Maryland's Minority Business Enterprise Program, our MBE program, is the oldest in the country, right? It was approved by legislators in 1978. We've evolved from a 10% MBE spending goal in 1978 to a 29% goal today. So that 29% goal means of the total value of contract awards across 70 participating state agencies, that 29% of those dollars on contracts is to be spent with MBEs. Maryland has failed to reach that MBE goal since it was enacted in 2013 every year, and participation has actually decreased almost every year except 2014. Decreased almost every year. We are not doing what we need to be doing. And this is really this is a failure by the government, not just for Black Marylanders and women and immigrants who are in these MBEs, but it's also a huge missed opportunity for the state as a whole. Because contracting with MBEs infuses predominantly minority communities with direct financial benefits and has the ability to increase stability in these communities by bolstering ongoing commercial activity. But it also helps the state grow our economy, right, in new and important ways in our communities. And getting to this, Tommy mentioned the business equity versus home equity into the racial wealth gap. Data shows that closing the 12 percentage point gap in small business ownership rates between black and white households could potentially close the gap in average net worth between those groups by 22%. That's a huge percentage. And so there's so much that we should be doing to really ensure that we're working with our MBEs. Because if improved, the MBE program has the potential to be a powerful driver of growth for communities of color all across the state. So how do we do that? Well, I will tell you, I cannot do it alone. Our governor cannot do it alone. The treasurer cannot do it alone. We as a Board of Public Works cannot do it alone. We have to do it by working together. And so much of what people here and today in this conference you're going to be doing is talking about and working on and finding solutions to grow those businesses to make sure that they can be partners in this success. So a few ideas that I also want to throw out. One, we have to simplify, streamline, and expedite the process for obtaining MBE certification, right? It's run through the Maryland Department of Transportation right now. It's great. We need to do better at making it easier to certify and recertify. Two, we have to enhance outreach to and engagement with and support of our MBEs, right? We can't sort of just, they sign up and that's it, and no more work. But there has to be ongoing support to make sure that they can benefit, and agencies need to design bids with MBEs in mind, right? So breaking up large contracts into smaller contracts, minimizing their exemptions and waivers on MBE goals, and creating incentives within the bids themselves for primes that use new MBE subcontractors, sorry. We also need to create mechanisms through which prime contractors can be held accountable for failing to meet their MBE goals, right? This can't sort of just exist on a, okay, you said you're going to do it, but we're not going to follow up and find out if you actually did kind of basis. So we are really interested in the comptroller's office in working with the Board of Public Works to have new technology where we can actually follow those bids along. I will tell you right now, if you want to follow, I mean, you can't follow a bid. If you want to know who we approved contracts for at the meeting, 2 weeks ago, you would have to go online and pull a PDF. You can't look it up anywhere. There's no online database of all the contracts that we have approved or denied anywhere. I mean, so even we can't look it up. I mean, it's really mind-boggling, frankly, that you can't follow those procurements. But that's something that we are keenly interested in fixing, so that if you want to go in and look at the data, you can find it, and you can find it aggregated. There's so much more that we need to do too. Creating opportunities for access to capital is huge for our MBEs so that they can finance programs in the least fragmented way possible. So this is such a huge part of what we need to do and need to be focusing on. But those steps, I would argue, aren't even enough. Because our MBE program is very specific. You have to be a small business to qualify to be an MBE. And I think that at some point we need a broader paradigm shift. To move the needle on achieving and exceeding our MBE goals. A shift from a compliance mindset to one of strengthening and developing the MBE ecosystem for the greater purpose of growing and strengthening the state's whole economy. So the goal shouldn't be to just check a box, but to understand this as a business building exercise. Building wealth in communities of color requires building and growing our MBE firms. And the state needs to focus on supporting minority businesses along a continuum of contracts, whether you certify as an MBE or whether you graduate, right? You get bigger and bigger. That should be the goal, so that you are growing and growing as an MBE and exceeding those business income or net worth limits. And then we will know that we are truly thriving as a state. So those are huge present challenges that we are excited to tackle in the comptroller's office. And then finally, our third priority, solving these challenges in the present sets us up for the final priority, which is really ensuring that Maryland is well positioned for responsible long-term economic growth and success. I'm going to give you 3 quick examples of long-term thinking. 1, the pension system. As Vice Chair of the Pension Board, I'm committed to ensuring the fund does more to engage our diverse investment managers, consultants, and staff. We have hired a new team member who is totally focused on that work. I now have regular meetings with her to make sure that we as a board can be supporting the work that she does, and we've got to build her team to do more. We also have to talk about climate change. Climate risk is investment risk, and our communities of color have traditionally been hurt the most by climate change, and if we are not getting a handle on this now, we are going to continue to wrongly invest, which is something that we have to make sure we don't do. So the fund is in a good place, but we have to be taking a close look at our underlying investments and fund managers so that we're maximizing returns, minimizing dangerous exposure, and diversifying our portfolio. Number 2, cannabis. Maybe you've heard. Something's happening with cannabis in Maryland. So starting this year, on July 1st, our office will be responsible for the collection and distribution, collection of taxes and the distribution of the revenue generated by the 9% sales and use tax imposed on cannabis sales. The Comptroller's Office is also responsible for setting up and accounting for several new funds that the General Assembly created in its legislation. There's the Cannabis Regulation and Enforcement Fund, a Cannabis Reinvestment and Repair Fund, which is 35% of the funds after the initial distribution, a Business Assistance Fund, a Public Health Fund, and more. We are committed to making sure that we fulfill our obligations under this new cannabis law and to working totally collaboratively with Governor Moore's administration and our new cannabis administration, the MCA, the Maryland Cannabis Administration, which will oversee all the cannabis licensing. There are going to be challenges. Right? A lot of these new businesses are going to be started by entrepreneurs who haven't started a business before. They might not know that you have to apply for a sales and use tax license. We want to make sure that we are there to work with them and help them grow their businesses. And we're excited I'm frankly excited to do that. It's an exciting time in Maryland's economy. And last but not least, one of my key priorities is to support the women of the state of Maryland. Yes. I always say, and I said on the campaign trail, I truly believe in the country, in our world, and in Maryland, we all do better when we all do better. But I also believe that we all do better when women do better. And so a key tenet of my administration is going to be making sure that we are supporting wealth creation by women. Women created half of all new businesses for the 3rd year in a row in 2022. And that's up from just starting 29% of new businesses before the pandemic. And 27% of those businesses started as a side hustle. So we have seen women leave the labor force to start their own businesses and become sole proprietors. And we have to make sure in the Office of the Comptroller that we are supporting that work each and every day. And so I'm excited to make sure that we are focusing in and talking about what we can do to support key investments in the women of the state of Maryland. I should also add, Black women were some of the largest entrepreneurs in the state of Maryland. And another challenge with that is that Black women have a harder time accessing capital than almost any other demographic. And so that means we're not just holding back those businesses from starting, we are holding back the entire state's economy. And so it's really essential that we get in there, that we dig in, we work with our lenders like the great PNC Bank and other great folks out there to prioritize these investments. So Senator Mikulski introduced me at my inauguration in January. And when she did that, she said, Brooke Learman, so excited. She understands that this office is about the macro issues and the macaroni and cheese issues. And she couldn't have been more right. This is an issue. This is an office, the Office of the Comptroller. It has to be your partner. It has to be your partner in both understanding the economy at the macro level, but then understanding at the macaroni and cheese level how to make sure families are applying for the Earned Income Tax Credit, how to make sure they're accessing capital, how to make sure that new business knows how to file and pay its sales use tax, right? Sales and use tax. That's what we're determined to do. But we cannot do it without your partnership. So this is day 101 of my administration, and I truly hope that it is the beginning of a conversation with all of you and not the end. Please reach out to me and to our office. We would love to hear from you about your ideas, on how we can engage, your ideas on things we should be researching and understanding, my email address is just my initials, bel@marylandtaxes.gov. Please forgive the URL. I promise we'll change it at some point, marylandtaxes.gov. We want to work with you to make sure that we can do everything that this state agency needs to do to support the women and the people of the state of Maryland. It is truly only, it is only working together that we can get big things done. Eleanor Roosevelt once said, "The future belongs to those who believe in the beauty of their dreams." I'd only add, and are willing to work to make those dreams a reality. You all are doers and workers and dreamers, and so am I, so let's work together to build a better Maryland. Thank you, everyone.
And we're just getting started. Haven't you learned so much already? Okay, listen, we are getting ready to roll our sleeves up, so listen fast, all right? First and foremost, I want you all to know that we have lots of volunteers around to help us move throughout the day. So I hope that you all can stay with us throughout the day. So Dr. Williams already laid out what's going to be happening for the remainder of the day. But I want you to kind of listen up to hear where the sessions are going to be. But you'll also find out where these sessions are in an app, which I'll share with you all shortly, okay? So we have a few sessions happening. So we have the Collective Impact, the HBCU Roundtable. I told you all we were part of history today. That's going to be happening in room 210, which is here to my left, okay? 218 is to my right, all right? So Making It Happen with Will Holman is going to be happening right here in this area. Again, talking about the Makerspace pilot initiative. Starting right with Vashti Pyatt, talking about business development, part of the Women Business Representative, the U.S. Small Business Administration, is happening in 210, okay? The BCPSS, work-based learning engagement, so the K through 12, I had someone that was interested in that. That is happening in TAWS, okay? So it's just a few steps down the road, someone will be out there to direct you there, okay? So this is happening, going to be happening as soon as I'm done. We're going to be shifting the times a little bit with our sessions, but do not worry. We're going to be having some session moderators in each of the rooms to let you know when it's time for you to move, because the sessions will be going back to back right before lunch, okay? After the first session, we're going to be having the CSU Excellence in Entrepreneurial Learning, the Excel project that Dr. Williams talked about. That's going to be right here in the atrium. We're going to have the Tech Talk with TEDCO, definitely going to be in 2018, A and B, again, over this side. Hearing the community findings of the West Baltimore listening tour with Christy Turner. That's going to be happening in 210. And then Pathways for Graduation to Greatness, which is going to be an alumni panel discussion, which will be happening in the TAWS. You can find out all of this information, though, if you can't write fast enough, in our app, okay? Oh, you are the bomb, okay? Can we clap it up for Reed? Thank you so much. I had no idea it was listed right there. But we do have an app, though, right? So if you go to SCED, so imagine spelling schedule, but just see, just the SCED, right? SCHED. Why don't you download that app, and literally you will see all of our agenda there for you today. Just go ahead and use the keywords, either Coppin State or the EIC, and it will come up. When you go in there, you'll actually see some videos from Mayor Brandon Scott, Senator Ben Cardin, as well as Senator Chris Van Hollen, so definitely make sure you go through there. I want you to know that we do have some people movers. Make sure you check out our exhibitors, okay, in between, and we will have lunch. Again, just be on the lookout. Right after the second session, lunch will start. There is reserved lunch, which will be in room 218, and there will be general lunch being provided downstairs. Before I let you go, I just want to let you know that we've been talking about economic inclusion, and we know one of the biggest quotes, maybe you've heard of it, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, you go together. So during our time together, know that with what we are doing here with the Center for Strategic Entrepreneurship, there are some flyers all around in all of the rooms to allow you to donate an amount of any amount, okay? Because as you can see, this is no cost to anyone, and we don't want to have any barriers for accessing this information, okay? So we're going to go ahead and depart and go to your sessions, right? All right, team, I'm looking for the thumbs up. I will see you all later on today. We'll meet here again after lunch.